Welcome back. We are back with breaking news out of Boston tonight. An iconic statue featuring Abraham Lincoln will come down. The Boston Art Commission voting unanimously to remove the Emancipation Memorial in Park Square tonight. The memorial coming under fire in recent weeks because of its depiction of Lincoln standing over a freed slave. The commission plans to put into detailed documentation of the artwork into an archive. The statue is a copy of the original Emancipation Memorial in Washington, D.C., where there are also calls to take that monument down as well. Now, at this time, there are calls to keep the statue up so it continues to tell the story of slavery here in America.